Hey there, bibliophiles. Today we're breaking it down with Mr. the Romance Rolodex, the man, the myth, the legend of all of your partner romance reader affirmation dreams. Tonight I am talking to Rob himself and asking all of those discussion questions about what is it like being married to the Romance Rolodex. Hey Rob, how are you doing?
Good. How are you tonight?
I am good. So, before we talk all things Mandy and the Romance Rolodex, I was just kind of wondering if you could walk us through like your reading journey, how you fell in love with reading, the books that you've been picking up recently.
So when I was younger, I despised reading in school. I felt like there were so many other better things to do. And it wasn't until honestly I kind of moved out of my parents' house and for cable and didn't really have internet because I was a single man that reading was when I really took off because that was free and I could do it at home. Um, Recently, I just finished not too long ago Jurassic Park, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Read Conclave, which is hit or miss a little bit, honestly, on everything. And right now, I'm currently reading The Butcher, as recommended by somebody I know deeply well.
So, can you kind of walk us through when you met Mandy? Did she hide her spicy happily ever afters, or was it more upfront that you knew exactly what you were getting into?
So I knew she was a Disney princess. She made that abundantly clear up front. Um, the what I believe the kids call smut was not made apparent to several months of us dating and like actually starting to hang out with each other and seeing her book collection in a corner where she was residing at, and asking questions, which I now deeply regret. And so now there's a running joke that whenever she is reading a book, I always ask who the characters are, what are their names, and it makes me laugh because usually the woman, simple name Eve, Kayla, Kylie, Ava, simple names. The men, not of this world. What are some of the names that you give me? There's so many. She's looking them up right now, so I can have a good laugh about this later.
Um, so like did you like take a look see in your curious nature and you were like, what is this about, dear? Or
No, the titles sometimes kind of make you wonder, like, oh, is this like a cowboy, type romance or like, middle world fantasy type stuff? Very Ice Planet Barbarian, I guess. I try to be, um, oh, what's the word I want to use? Naive and believe the best in what she's reading. Um, until she starts giggling and laughing and making other sounds. And then she starts looking at me and slams her book and goes, "So, what are you doing right now?" And that's usually when I know there's been a good part of a book.
so you think that her reading the spiciest of spice has a good benefit to your relationship?
You could say that.
Okay.
The
What's
spice is inside of the book and out.
yeah, okay. So I guess, there's been a lot of controversy around smut books that like they aren't really actually literature and like knowing how much Mandy adores it. Obviously, you're a supportive partner with like the reels she's had, but what is your take when you hear like other guys hearing like those aren't really books, like it's just smut?
Um, I don't believe it sets an unrealistic expectation like other things do for coitus. But I don't really also want to say whatever gets someone to read because my sister started reading semi, I guess, romancy books around 15, 16, and reached out to Mandy for some ideas and titles. And I was kind of like, so I had to call mom. I'm like, hey, just so you're aware, your daughter, my sister, is starting to read. And my mom was like, I know, but she's reading at least. So I'm like,
Yeah, and I think too, you touched on it in like some of the reels, but how do you hear like when it's like, you know, trillionaire romance and like mafia gangs? Does it make you question like your relationship or
No, I know Mandy and I love each other inside and out for who we are and what we are. We're true to each other. I never doubt for a second whatever she's reading, whatever kind of, I guess, trope or genre of smut that, is going to hinder our relationship or anything. I mean, it's what brings her pleasure in a different way in life than me just being her husband
so like
or
you're
Mr.
okay with the book
Romantic.
boyfriends because you know you're her husband.
Correct. Because yeah, because the book boyfriends are maybe for one book or two. They don't last long.
That's fair. But if you had a wager, how many book boyfriends do you think Mandy has?
Has or has had.
Has had.
You see all the books behind me?
I was gonna say, I'm thinking at least 1,000. Like at least four digits.
And you think there's one comma or two in that number? Just okay, so yeah, that uh, no more than a million, but in thousands.
Has there ever been a time you have read one of her romance books per her recommendation?
So I was part of a book club with her, and when it was her turn, and the reason I knew this name earlier was Ice Planet Barbarians was the topic of that book for that month, and I think I got through the first 3 pages, and I just said this isn't for me, and Mandy, laughed and held her book closer and said, "It's okay, I'll cover it for you at the book club." I think a few of the other guys there, one had listened to the audio tape. The other, I think, actually did power through and read it, which my congratulations to him because and I tried. I maybe 3 pages wasn't enough, but I didn't. Where it was going, I had a lot of questions. So yeah,
So, since you don't typically read them, and I know Mandy's a chatterbox, does she give you like the TLDR version, like, oh, and then they did this, and then this happened?
no, ignorance is bliss in this house when it comes to what she's reading and what type.
Okay. Okay.
She honestly gets upset sometimes, like when I'll try and peek over to see what she's reading. Um, if she doesn't notice at first, she doesn't say anything. But when I start reading the lines out loud, that's when she's like, can you not, please? Like this is my time.
But is that
Yeah,
because she doesn't want you to read it or because she wants to read and not have you say it out loud?
I think it's probably because I do it in some a somewhat annoying way almost, like because I'll kind of act like I'm reaching over to put my arm around her or something, and I'll start reading whatever a sentence may be, and not even during a spicy scene, just they're courting each other, walking down the road, and you know he slips his hand firmly into mine and looks deeply into my eyes, and tells me that the last time he saw that color was from a sunset in Vermont when he was skiing. Stuff like I'll start reading that, and she's like, no, 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 stop. So she will never have an audiobook done by me, unfortunately.
No, I just imagined like the scene from like Disney's animated Tarzan where she's like, no, 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 I'm Jane.
Very much so.
Well, so I guess your what would be your advice out there for men who, because like there's a lot of romantasy series that has like brought smut and spice to the forefront of reading. For men at home that maybe aren't readers and find themselves with wives that are very obsessed with these books, like what words of wisdom do you have for them?
Leave them be. Just let them read their books or their audiobook. Let them get it out. It brings them a special joy that you're still her cowboy at the end of the day, but she's gonna um, drive by and check out the stable, I guess, just, she's committed to you, but she's just reading about somebody else's fairy tale
Yeah.
that she wants to picture herself in potential.
So you've been using cowboy reference a few times. Do you have like tropes that you're like more of a fan of than others?
No, I want to say it's more of a joke um, it's an inside joke between several of us that are part of a book club and meet up for book crawls and things that, just the cowboy fetish seems to be easy to kind of jump on and have fun with. So
Yeah.
let the good times roll, right?
Yeah. No, it's always interesting going to like Chamblin and like just like you've got like the Scottish kilts and then like the Westerns and then like uh you have like mafia, billionaire, like and then that's just like the regular and it's not even like the dark romance section, which I didn't even know was a thing until your wife pointed it out to me, which I'm sure you
Yeah,
frequent.
I believe she has almost a book from every type of romance genre, if not multiples. Um, she's she's been reading smut for a long time.
And so, what do you think about your wife like joining Bookstagram and like she's known as the Romance Rolodex and when people need a romance recommendation, she is like a hot point of contact.
She's very resourceful in the romance genre. I I support that. Somebody has to do it. You know, I do give her credit for her creativity because she'll often let me preview the videos, and I usually get a good laugh out of them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you got to let me know when you post it so I can go save it and like it because she'll have one or two lined up ready to go, and or she'll text me at work like, hey, just drop a new video, go check it out, and I won't even know what it's about, and I'll start snorting at work laughing because she's just so cute when she in her zone, and so like especially the one where um, Fourth Wing when I didn't understand at first that like I guess telepathy was like how they talked. So
Yeah.
when like said, "Oh, I'll go get the wing leader." I didn't understand why that was so funny until she's like, "Oh, it's like the telepathically, it's what," and I'm like, "Oh, that makes more sense." Okay, got it. So, but she has a lot of good one-liners. She actually wants to take the spot behind us on the wall and make it a quotes wall. Not of all romance books. I put my foot down about that, but quite a few will come from her books and then other life quotes that either she has come across, I've come across, or family have said to her that, like her dad has one about peanut butter and jelly.
I was just gonna ask if peanut butter and jelly is gonna go up there.
The peanut butter and jelly was like one of the first ones she ever wrote down for our quote wall.
Um, And I think quotes are a good because like in my book reviews, I heavily lean on the synopsis that the book provides, like on the back or in the cover, like the inside fold. But then also some of the quotes itself, because it's like, don't take my word for it. Here's like some of the words from the actual author. So I
Right.
think quotes are really special, especially like for family too, because that's memories and that's how we reflect
Well,
back and treasure each other.
so I have quite a collection of physical books myself, but I prefer my Kindle to read a lot. And I always find it interesting what like the highlighted quotes are, from thousands of people because everybody's different, unique in their own way. And sometimes I'm like, why would this be a quote that you would want to save? But then again, I'd be the only one who might want a different quote out of the book. So I just find it interesting what everybody considers a quote or a favorite quote and what might sell them on a book.
What so I'm realizing, what do you like? What is your criteria for highlighting something, for quoting something?
I don't take a lot of quotes, honestly. I
Okay.
kind of just read through things and get them. But if it's something that like I read it and I kind of go back to it and think about it later, like, that it means something because it probably touched me on a personal level
Yeah.
of, I get it's fictional characters, but, just the thought process of this is why it was said or how it was done of that's got some sincerity to it. Sincerity. Don't listen to me. I can't speak apparently. Sincerity behind it.
Yeah. You'll probably go nuts seeing mine because like I do that as well, like things that speak to me. But like especially for thrillers, it's like if there's like this little hint drop that I think is gonna like be useful later on. Because it's like people would be like, "Well, how did you figure out?" And it's like it was right there. The
I will
silent
say
patient is like one where my quotes came in handy.
I will say it's funny because Mandy will be reading her Kindle in bed, or I guess her iPad with the Kindle app. I should specify. And then like she'll come across the line, and then I'll see her start tapping her screen and going and like doing voice recording for okay, so on the next one, add da 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 da, and I'll at this point it's just white noise. I don't even pay attention unless she starts hitting me on the arm, going, "Hey, hey, look at this." Because usually I'm in my own world. I'm either reading my book or scrolling through Facebook, seeing what's up to date on everything.
So, have you ever recommended a book like from your collection for her to read?
I I have recommended Jurassic Park to her because I know she's a Jurassic Park girly as well. Um, and I believe you've read Jurassic Park, and there's just from she's seen the movie 1,000 times, but there's so many differences from the book to the movie that it has a lot of similarities along the way, and you see where you know Spielberg got his ideas and inspiration, but then you see very much where it differentiates. And if you've never read it, I highly recommend it. I have not started The Lost World yet. It's on my TBR, which I found out stands for to be read. Um, all these acronyms for different things.
You're doing well. You're doing amazing, sweetie. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Yeah, I read Jurassic Park. I agree with you. I'll get on Mandy's case too now because I just assume she's read it. But um yeah, especially for people that are really interested in the movie, like it's it's all of that with some differences, but like even more. Like there's so much more there.
Right.
And I
And
was
there's honestly, to me, the book's more gruesome than the movie.
yeah.
Um, and the way things are depicted and who survives.
Well, also there's like more experiences they go through, so like more interactions,
Right.
which
It's
lead to the more. So I was kind of surprised, like, oh wait, like they're doing this now? Like that wasn't even in the movie.
so well, that's one thing it's always hard when you either read a book or watch the movie first, then do the opposite because you're looking for the similarities. Like you think you know the storyline, and then you start to be like, okay, well, they deviated this path, and all right, so now we're branching off onto, wait, now we've got three branch offs, and then that ties it all together somehow. I think Hollywood cheats a lot, but books, it's hard to, leave it up to imagination. Usually the book does wrap it all together, though it be sometimes a cop out how they do it, they still do it.
And I think Jurassic Park, there's a lot of philosophical thought there, which like is hinted in like a humorous way in the movie, but like Malcolm's rants.
Yeah, he
And
cusses a lot more in the book. John Hammond to me is a little bit more. I don't know. He seems more like a pain in the butt in the book than he is in the. I mean, he's very semi egotistical of well, I have all the money, I'll do it how I want, in the movie, but in the book, it's truly his way or the highway, and y'all better get on board.
yeah, and I think too, he seemed to be. I think we got a more transparent look on how Jurassic Park came to be because it wasn't just Hammond. There were
Right.
like the investors and all. Like we got a lot of the backstory too, which I think really made it more realistic and scary.
Well,
Um,
and what I kind of appreciated the book did that the movie didn't necessarily do was they gave you kind of the more backstory on Nedry and Dotson and Engine and like what that process was, and not just okay, we're gonna steal stuff and get you caught up on 10 years. They really went into a little bit more and gave you that backstory.
yeah, and like as I was reading it, I was like, that backstory of like next gen and like genetic engineering, like you could plug like a lot of different topics in that, and like the whole book would stand true today, like AI. Like all I like you could context switch it from like genetic engineering to AI, and like all of Malcolm's concerns still hold true. All of those conversations are still relevant, and I'm like, man, this book was so ahead of its time. Like this is not a dinosaur book. Like it has dinosaurs in it, but it's almost like more of a philosophical examination.
I will be interested to see if someday if they don't remake Jurassic Park, because I know we always say, oh, they'll never remake classics, and but they do, unfortunately, because we can't come up with original ideas. We've got to repeat what we've already done. I just hope if they do it, they kind of do what they did back then and use a lot more animatronics because it looks more realistic than all the CGI does now. It was very disheartening watching all the Jurassic Worlds because again, they're CGI, but I mean they look cheap on the film, and even you're kind of like, really, we spent how much millions of dollars to make this, and we have like what looks like a fifth grader programmed for a dinosaur.
Have you seen there's like a Netflix special series called like Beyond, like basically it's like documentaries about how movies got made.
No.
They have one on Jurassic Park, and you know
Oh,
that initial scene in the movie where they see like when they first see the dinosaurs walking together and they're like, "Oh, they're in herds." Like
right.
it kind of talks about the animators at that time and like the stress that was put on them to produce that back
I
then.
bet.
So I'll have to send you the link after this. I think you would really like it because it talks about the whole movie. Um, but it actually interviews the people that were involved in making the movie. It's not just a documentary. So like hearing like the animator like talk about how frustrating everything is was amazing.
I think one of my favorite things I've ever learned about the like behind the scenes of Jurassic Park is the scene when the T-Rex gets out and the two kids are in the car. In the movie, when the T-Rex comes through the sunroof, it's not supposed to pop out. So when that glass pops through and lands on them, that's true terror on their faces because it was not supposed to happen that way. And that's one of those where the director was like, just keep rolling, So
We're just
it's
gonna
cool
profit from this
depicted that.
childhood trauma.
That's probably why them kids never acted again, honestly.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Um, so you are now Bookstagram famous for your affirmations, even as Mandy is like holding up the cue card. Is that something we're gonna see more of, or
There will be more romance reader affirmations for husbands that are lined up. We do have a few other, I don't want to say party tricks, but there's other ideas that we have that we're going to use to create more content with me in it. One of which I'm going to kind of give away is I will be reading romance lines while high on helium. Please be prepared for that one because it will not be a filter. That will be me sitting here sucking in probably two or three different balloons over an hour or so, trying to get these lines out without laughing. So expect a blooper reel from that one probably.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. I think that's going to be amazing because I think Because, like, for me, romance isn't my thing. I can do it every once in a while, but like sometimes, because like it just gets so serious, and then to like flip a page and they're like getting hot and heavy, it's like a very hard context switch for me. But like hearing it, like going in with like a silliness, like
And what I try to do to stay true to character is I don't know what the lines are. She's going to present them one at a time to me right after I do the helium. So if I'm laughing most of the helium away, it's because I've read the line before I've spoken it, which I try not to do with stuff when she records it for me because I want it to be natural. I don't want it to seem very staged. I want to be like, that's why I think the first video when she's like, "What are enemies to lover?" My first thought was truly Trump to the world. I wish I could tell you we're sitting down writing this stuff, but Mandy's just making the gathering lines and ideas and then going, "Hey, sit down for a minute. I want to ask you some questions." That's how it happens.
do you think as you've learned more, like doing the romance affirmations, it's helped you better understand why these books give Mandy joy?
No, I feel like it almost, while it invites me into the romance and smut world, I think Mandy fears it because now she knows I'm going to ask more questions, and that's kind of like her private space. That is, that is her West Wing from Beauty and the Beast, more or less. Like that's the no-go area. And now I'm the one walking up to the rose, going, "I have questions," and she's like, "Okay."
Well, but I kind of love this for y'all because, especially because, my husband and I, we read different genres too, but finding that middle area to like share bookish joy.
I'm not sure how fond she would be if I started reading like the books after her. She speed reads. I don't know how she gets through like almost 1 to 2 books a week. I will say some are novellas, which are not very long books, but she does have the ability to read more often than I do, so I think that also helps.
Yeah. But also, like, there's like church, her plants, her family, her husband, books. Like that.
You should have put books up first.
Fair. But it's like
But
if all of those other things are busy, Mandy is reading. Like there's no other setting option for her.
this is true. What's really funny is when she'll go to her mom's house to like hang out, and she'll be like, "I'm taking my iPad because we're gonna, read," which they do read sometimes, but they get into giggle fits because they'll both start reading, and then they'll be like, "Well, have you read this book? Well, let me you remember this line," and then they just get into a giggle fight back and forth, and then 45 minutes later, they're like, "Oh, we didn't read. We laughed all the time."
Okay, but first of all, Mama Neeson's a good time. So I completely understand how they're
Mom
giggling
needs
the
a
whole
great
time.
time.
But also, besides the library behind you and the library I know that's in the room, even behind that wall, Mama Neeson has a spectacular library herself. And that
She
little
does.
room setup, I just want to curl up in there and spend 45 minutes giggling with her too.
She, well, and I wonder if maybe Mama Neeson is how Mandy got into romance a little bit. um, because I would, from what I can gather, based off what I've seen at her house, she has very, very soft, probably slow romance books, not hard and heavy like some of what's behind me. Um, I know she has a lot of like Debbie McComber and other, like Lisa Keyplass and Lord, I can't. She read like the whole Virgin River series, and so ones that have, I guess, a more main story to them, and then like the romance affairs kind of thrown in there. Very hallmarky books, I should say.
Yeah, very
Like the romance
yearning.
is there, but it's not the main focal point.
Yeah, very yearning and just like getting the affection back is like the crescendo of those movie or of those books, I feel like.
Right.
That's fair. Yeah, because
I
I
I, I have seen Mandy put books down because it takes too long for anything to happen, and she'll be like, "I'll come back to this one later," and I'll be like, "What's wrong?" And she goes, I'm like 50 pages in and like 7 chapters, and they haven't even met each other yet. I'm like, okay, good for you.
Oh, hey, you know, different perspectives. And I have books where like the characters don't even meet until like the last chapter.
Well, I guess that's the other thing is, I a lot of my TBR is like series of books. A lot
Yeah.
of what I'm reading now is kind of like, an individual book by itself. There's no sequel, prequel. It's That's the book.
Yes.
Mandy's, sometimes will string across, 4 or 5 books, disappear, and then show up halfway through another series, and she'll be like, "Oh my goodness, I remember reading this, in high school, and yeah, 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 wow, like she brought him back, and I have absolutely no idea, except for the fact that I'm happy that she remembers it because now she's going to go reread that book to freshen up on whoever it was.
Yeah, because Mandy's the one that taught me like a lot of the romance genres, no matter if it's like Western or, historical, like they go through like not just families, but like friend groups. So like with each book you get insight to like a different kind of like the icebreaker series and stuff now. Like she's the one that taught me like that's old, like that's always been a thing that authors have used for romance books. And I'm like, see, for a lot of me, like my stories are one and done. Very rarely do you have multiples, like a series. And then
Right.
very rarely is it done well.
I will say and I guess Bridgerton would be kind of a good example of that. Maybe you know, I've watched the other 3 seasons. Are we on season 4 now? Yeah. Well, I've watched the first 3 with her after her and her watch party have watched it. Um, but and again, she's very much, well, that didn't happen in the book, or in the book, this person was like that, or this person was, like, oh, they died already, So it's funny watching it with her and her telling me it's Bridgerton's on my TBR. That's probably going to be the romance series that I do read when I get to it.
Good luck. I tried. I read book one. And then I was like, don't make me do this again. That's like one of those, I prefer the Netflix show, but you might find something different. So I
We'll
wish you
see.
sincere luck.
I'll follow up if it's a one and done for me or if I think I can press through.
Okay. Okay. Good. Because then we can have some of the insight, maybe some of the quotes that are Bridgerton inspired and be like, guess the Bridgerton brother.
Maybe that's what I should do once or twice a year is I'll force myself to read a romance book and then I'll take out quotes I think that are important or unique,
Yeah.
and then we can just discuss that, and Mandy can be like, no, that's not, no. Why did you select that? No, Rob. And I'll be like, well, what line did you select? And she'll tell me, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I read that, but to me it just didn't hit, and she'll be like, no. Like, and then she'll tell me to go read my genre of book and leave her alone.
Well, I know it's getting late, but I wanted to sincerely thank you. I've been loving seeing your reels. I've been loving your affirmations, and I know there's been a lot of controversy, and I figured having a Mister's opinion on it would be very insightful to listeners.
I hope it is. If you all have any questions, please either submit them to Mama Bear Bibliophile or over at Mandy at Romance Roll. Is it Miss Romance Rolodex?
No,
My bad. I don't even know my wife's handle. The Romance Rolodex, and they will pass the questions along to me, and then if I get enough, I'll make a video answering the questions. If not, we can respond one at a time.
I love that. Sound off in the comments if you have further follow-up questions for Mr. Romance Rolodex, because Mandy and we know where to find you, Rob.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure being on the podcast, and I hope to make an appearance again someday.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Rob. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.